WPGU. It's a Monday evening. It is our first show of the week. We woke up to this morning to the news that Illinois basketball is ranked 4th in the nation, even after suffering a loss to Michigan State early last week. They bounced back with a good win against Nebraska and what should have been a good win against Wisconsin that ended up coming down to the wire because some late game heroics by Wisconsin guard Demetric Trice.
I still consider it a good win against Wisconsin.
I still think it's a good win without Io DeSumo. I just, being up, what were they, up 12 in the second half?
Yeah, and
you kind
of getting to a point where it could be 20 at some point.
Yeah, you kind of didn't want it to come down to last game or late game free throws. But look, I mean, these are talented kids that are playing. Demetric Trice just had an insane stretch where I think he scored like 10 straight himself. Mm-hmm. It was insane, but luckily Illinois' free throws held up. Grandison, Trent Frazier, and Andre Cabello all capitalized on every free throw they made. Devontae Williams, you can throw him in there too. But yeah, it was a solid win, and those two wins were enough to overpower the bad loss. That, along with Ohio State losing, Baylor losing, a couple people behind Illinois losing, had them jump up in the rankings. So Illinois sits at 4 right now. Have a game tomorrow against the number 2 team in the nation, Michigan. And then to close out the season on Saturday, they have Ohio State. Nathan, walk me through this Wisconsin game before we do a deep dive on Michigan.
So I think it's important to note that it was a really sloppy game on Illinois' end.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing was they kind of dominated the whole way through. And the only reason it was so close was 2 things. Turnovers that Wisconsin forced, which, yeah, as I said, sloppy play, just like there were travels. Andre Cabello had a lot of turnovers. He played great. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of turnovers. And on the other side, it was Demetric Trice down the stretch. I mean, 19 straight points for Wisconsin. He completely carried them, and he brought them back. It was more than just him making shots. It was he was basically throwing up anything he could because they had to throw up any shot possible, and he was banking in threes at one point. Overall, I'd say it's a quality win because Kofi was good. Andre Cabello was great. Trent Frazier down the stretch was solid. Jacob Grandison, he's been really good since Io's been hurt these last 2 games. It was another one of those games where role players stepped up, and you feel confident that this team, aside from Io, has some characteristics where they will step up. I think Brad Underwood said this today in his presser that Andre Cabello said this about himself, that he tends to play down to opponents at times. And we've seen that. We've seen him struggle against inferior opponents because he's willing to take more risks and make some kind of dumb plays at times. But against the best teams, when he has to play great, he does play great. Yeah. So it's an overall quality win. And the best thing about this is that because you win this, you're closer to a 1 seed than you were going in.
100%. Illinois right now projected to be a 1 seed by some guys. But yeah, on Cabello, I mean, you could tell from this game. I mean, he had 6 turnovers, only 1 assist off the bench, which is very uncharacteristic of Cabello. But yeah, you could tell through this game he was willing to kind of throw some passes he normally wouldn't. And Cabello, congrats to him, won Big Ten Freshman of the Week this week.
Deserved.
Very, very well deserved. Because I think he was averaging 13, 7, and 7 through this week.
Yeah, he almost had a triple double, and then he follows it up with 17 and 7? I think against Wisconsin.
Really good performance. But yeah, I think he's coming along. Obviously, there's always that turnover question that'll come with Andre Cabello. But if he could ever get that, and I think Dan Dockich was talking about it. If he could ever get that, locked down, and me and Dan Dockich, don't see eye to eye, even though he doesn't know who I am. But
not a lot of college basketball fans see eye to eye with Dan Dockich.
Yeah, that's valid. But I do agree with him on the fact that Andre Cabello can be a star in this league as soon as he understands, he needs to slow the game down a little bit because he sees the court really well. He can score. He doesn't choose to score a lot, but when he does, I mean, you see 17 points. He finishes around the rim really well. His shot is sometimes there. He had 1 or 2 from 3. But yeah, what this game really came down to was turnovers, especially late game.
Turnovers are big.
Turnovers are huge, and when you look at these stats, like there's things that are good and bad at the same time, which is weird, right? Like letting Demetric Trice, go 6 for 9, shooting a lot of those threes late in the second half, making some really threes that I didn't think we were gonna hit at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you can live with. It's something you want to see like tightened up a little bit, but you're missing your best player and probably your second best guard defender. And I would assume I would probably put Trent Frazier a little bit above him.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the overall 3-point percentage. I mean, shoot, Wisconsin shot 10 for 31. Like you're
like 4 for 23 or something like that.
Yeah, early in the game they couldn't buy a bucket. You played phenomenal defense through the first 10 minutes. But yeah, I mean, like anytime you're letting your opponent shoot 31 threes and they've only made 10 of them, like that's good defense right there.
Mm-hmm.
They shot 34% for the whole game. Illinois shot 55% from 3-point. I think there's things you can hang your hat on and be like, look, this was a good win. At the end, you had a guy who it was his night and he took over. But you guys were able to make your free throws when they mattered the most. Obviously, Illinois has been so iffy at that, but 70% from the line was nice. Most of those free throws coming, at the end with Curbelo, Trent Frazier, and Grandison sinking the last 2.
Although in context, 8 for 8 in your last 8, I believe.
Yeah.
So if you take that away,
it'd be
11 for 19. Not great.
That's ugly.
Yeah.
But look, they came away with the win. Brad talked about it. You're just happy to go to a Big Ten opponent without your best player and make a win. That's what's really interesting. And what this game did for Illinois, taking this game away, winning in Nebraska, it put them in charge of their own destiny when it comes to getting that 1 seed, that coveted 1 seed that everybody wants right now because Gonzaga's been unbeatable this year. Baylor, except for that one game, has been unbeatable this year.
Although Baylor's looked pretty bad.
They have, and they did lose to Kansas this week. That's why they dropped to
almost 3. Lost to Iowa State, one of the worst.
Definitely almost lost to Iowa State as well. You're getting to the point where Baylor may not be the same team that we saw at the beginning of the year when Illinois played them. And Illinois is a little bit better than they were in the beginning of the year because their role players are coming along. But then you look at Michigan, right? And those 3 teams have all season been ahead above the rest of the competition.
They have 2 losses combined.
Right. Those 3 teams have 2 losses combined. Michigan one coming at, a Minnesota, which a lot of people have lost at. And Baylor's coming against a ranked team. So you really wanted to avoid those 3 as much as you could. Illinois now has these 2 games and then 2 games in the Big Ten tournament before, or potentially 2 games in the Big Ten tournament to kind of control their own destiny. And the way I see it is if you go 2-2 in this stretch, or if you go 2-2, yeah, perfect. If you go 2-2 in this stretch, you have a good chance of beating or making it to the first seed. So that means if you split one with here, preferably you lose to Michigan and you beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then you win the first game in the Big Ten tournament and then you lose in the Big Ten championship game, probably against Michigan again. That would set you up pretty well for a Big Ten or for a first seed in the NCAA tournament.
I think some things need to play out though in that scenario. So one, it's easier to see that scenario when, as you said, a loss to Michigan and a win against Ohio State at Ohio State, because yes, if you beat Michigan, that's a huge win.
Mm-hmm.
But if you lose to Ohio State, you got 2 losses against Ohio State, which isn't a great look. Another part of it is that if you go 1-1, as in you win your first game, so I think you go to would it be the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah.
And you fall there, you wouldn't be falling to Michigan. You'd be falling to Ohio State, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, or you're going to, what's Iowa now? Is Iowa the 4 seed in the Big Ten?
I think so. So I don't even think you'd fall to Ohio State. You'd fall to, I remember somebody did the bracket.
We should take a look at the bracket because I actually haven't seen it at all.
Yeah, I know because they had them on the other side of Michigan, and it worked out really well for Illinois. And on their side were like Indiana, Nebraska, Purdue, maybe.
Here, I'll pull up the bracket. You pull up the standings because I don't think we'll be able to quickly find an up to date one. But so Illinois would be the 2 seed right now, and they'd play the winner of the 7-10 game. Do you have the 7 seed and the 10 seed?
Yeah, so the 7 seed is Maryland and the 10 seed is Indiana.
Oh, God, I don't like that.
You don't like that?
Because I already lost to Maryland and the 2 Indiana games were close. But on the other side, you'd be playing the winner of. Oh God, this bracket's cut off. Hold on. So you would be playing the winner of I believe it's the 6-11, and so you're basically playing like the 3 seed. So you're playing Ohio State.
Right.
So I think that game's pretty important in overall standings because yes, Ohio State.
Right now the 3 seed's Iowa.
Oh.
Because they beat Ohio State. So it goes Michigan, Illinois, Iowa, Purdue, Ohio State, Wisconsin, the top 6.
Oh, that throws a wrinkle in.
Yeah.
But
I also don't know if I want to see Iowa right now.
Yeah, because Iowa could potentially still get a 1 seed, which is scary.
Yeah.
They're ranked 5th in the country. A win against Illinois would be huge for them because we already beat Iowa, and it cancels it out in a sense. I think you got to get to the finals of the Big Ten.
I agree.
To get that 1 seed.
And that's where they should be. I think that's where they should be. They've played this season. They're 2 in the league for a reason. They've beat 3. They've beat 4. They've beat Wisconsin. They beat all these ranked teams. The only teams they haven't beat, Michigan and Ohio State. They're going to see another chance for Ohio State, and they're obviously seeing Michigan tomorrow.
And Maryland.
That Maryland game.
Yeah.
But those are two teams that or the 3 teams that I think really deserve the most to be in that final right now. If you just look at schedule, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State.
Yeah.
So
although Iowa, yes, the Michigan loss is bad, but they kind of bounced back after that tough 5-game stretch they went through.
I think Iowa going 4 losses in 5 games was really bad for them, but they are bouncing back, and that's why I wouldn't want to see them right now because it seems like they're kind of clicking. And that Ohio State win, beating them by 16, very, very convincing. So I definitely don't want to see them. I don't want to see Luka Garza. We dealt with them one time, and I would not enjoy seeing them again.
Although I think I'd rather see Iowa than Ohio State, just because the Ohio State matchup is very tough because they shoot a lot of threes. They got a lot of great guard play, and it's not the same guard play as Iowa, where Iowa, they have just great shooters everywhere, and then they run their offense through Luka Garza. They cut off of him, and they get open because of the attention that comes to Luka Garza. I think if Kofi's disciplined, he can guard Luka Garza and limit him to 16, 17 points, and you probably win that game. Against Ohio State, the E.J. Liddell matchup scares me so much with Kofi because he can stretch the floor. And then you got guys like Dwayne Washington. You got guys like Justice Suing. You got so many other perimeter players that can cause a lot of problems for Illinois.
Yeah. Definitely a weird situation. But, obviously in the Big Ten tournament, you don't want to play anybody that's good, but that's how it happens. For me, at least, I think I would still rather than play Ohio State just because Iowa has that 3-point factor, which we've seen so many times that if they're on, Illinois could lose that game easily. Just if you have Bohannon and C.J. Frederick, who's back, and Wieskamp, all shooting 3 or 4 threes, and then you have Luka Garza putting up 25, how do you stop that? I don't know. So
it's a wider range with Iowa.
Yeah, definitely. So it's weird, but I mean, that's how the standings go right now. But to even have that conversation, to even have that 1 seed conversation, Illinois needs to show up tomorrow in Michigan, and likely without their best player. We'll definitely tackle that when we come back on Illini Drive 107.1 WPGU. Welcome back to Illini Drive 107.1 WPGU. Nathan, I didn't even ask you, how was your weekend, man?
Oh, thank you. It was kind of busy. Prepping for a show I'm producing tomorrow, Illini Sports Night. Got a shameless plug in there.
Plug it in.
Because Brendan's also going to be on.
I will be making, I think it's my second. I did one last year.
You did one. Was it was a while ago.
It was a while ago. It was before COVID. Last year sometime. I think it was with Illini Drive alumni, both Nathan DeHaan and Alex Aguilera. So those 2 guys, I did a show with them one time. But yeah, it's a great show. You guys do an amazing job with ISN.
Thank you.
So watch that. I watch it. Watch that. It's live tomorrow.
Tomorrow 9:00. Yeah. PBS, local, public radio, public TV.
Love it. But yeah.
What about you?
It was okay. I mean, Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a great weekend, but I saw my mom and my little brother came
Oh, that's nice.
yesterday. So we went grocery shopping, had dinner, um, and seeing family always turns you
Wait,
around.
did you cook?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no.
Because I would have been interested about that.
No, I should have cooked. But yeah, I mean, seeing family always turns your mood around. So it was really good to do that. And then, been working on some different stuff. Had a couple of videos to produce yesterday. Did a podcast this morning that's dropping this morning that's dropping tomorrow before the game.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, just be on the lookout for that. Follow me and Nathan on Twitter.
Yeah.
At Brendan_Jones, and then Nathan go crazy.
Yeah, at the Indian Mamba. I got to change that for professional purposes.
I love it. You are the Indian Mamba.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, so tomorrow, Michigan, Illinois. This game, talking about it today, it kind of hit me. This game might be the biggest regular season game for Illinois in decades. Since maybe that 04-05.
The Wake Forest game? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, like because this game, right, looking at it, now that Illinois is fourth right now because of Ohio State's lost to Iowa, they are in charge of their own destiny when it comes to getting a number one seed and having the best possible path to the national championship, which would be that last number one seed, maybe even the third one if they're able to beat Michigan tomorrow and then possibly see them in the Big Ten tournament and beat them again. So it's important. But likely they'll have to do it without Ayo Dosunmu, who has been out for the last two games. Obviously, Illinois' best player, National Player of the Year candidate, somebody that I believe should be the National Player of the Year. Nathan, I'm sure you feel some similar way. Illinois sent their game notes in, and he's not on the starting lineup as of now. Obviously, they have until tomorrow before the game to upgrade him to starting. But it looks like Illinois will be without Ayo Dosunmu. Obviously, Brad and the rest of the staff trying to make sure he's 100% before putting him back out there because this is an important game, but it is also a regular season game. You'd rather have Ayo Dosunmu for the Big Ten tournament and for the NCAA tournament.
You can also kind of sacrifice it.
Yeah.
This isn't a must-win.
Definitely not a must-win situation. Yeah, so that being said, Illinois coming in, obviously struggling a little bit against Michigan State that ended their 7-game win streak, but are right now 9 of their last 10 playing really good basketball without, Ayo Dosunmu. They kind of steamrolled past Nebraska, struggled a little bit in the late game against Wisconsin, as we talked about in the last segment. But this is a game that means a lot to a lot of people, right? Like you look at Trent Frazier, who is playing probably the best basketball he has of his Illinois career and the most important basketball he's been playing of his Illinois career. And to go out with beating a number 2 ranked team in the country would be amazing for him. Kofi Cockburn. Hunter Dickinson has this year as a freshman become a top post scorer in this league with post scorers like Luka Garza, Trace Jackson Davis, and Kofi Cockburn.
Second team All Big Ten, probably.
Hunter Dickinson?
Yeah.
I think he has an argument for it. So that matchup is going to be insane. Isaiah Livers, some guy who was really highly touted, dealt with some injuries, but is back and is leading this team in a way that's really good. Mike Smith, a transfer who...
Mike Smith's been really underrated.
Has been really good for this team. This team is very balanced. There's 6 guys that score at least 8 points. They have a lot of team facilitation. They pass the ball really well. They don't have one guy that is going to, go off every day, so like an Ayo or a Kofi, but they have guys that are capable of having big games all the time. Back to Livers, who shoots 48%, I think, from 45% from 3, but he shot over 100 threes this year, so it's not fluky at all.
He's taking over 5 a game.
Yeah, and he's making 2.5 of them, so that's big. And then can't even really mention the 6'10" little brother of Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner, who is 13.5 points a game, is also a defensive anchor for them.
Could be the defensive player of the year in the Big Ten.
Could 100% be the defensive player of the year in the Big Ten. And is also really good on offense and is going to cause a huge matchup nightmare for Illinois, whoever draws that card. How does Illinois, first thought without Ayo Dosunmu, how does Illinois win this game?
You win it by a couple things. Trent Frazier has to basically play like he did against Iowa. He has to be hitting everything. He has to be completely shutting down the perimeter. I'm guessing they're going to put him on Isaiah Livers, and that's a tough matchup because he's going to be undersized. You can't put him on Franz Wagner because that's just a complete mismatch.
You talking about Trent?
Yeah.
They're going to put him on, I'm blanking on his name.
Are you thinking Mike Smith?
No.
Eli
the
Brooks?
other guard, Brooks. I think they talked about that in the press conference today.
Okay.
I think, it's going to be Miller on Smith, Frazier on Brooks.
So that's going to be interesting because you might see some bigger lineups then.
Yeah.
You might see Grandison, Georgie, Kofi, Adam Miller, Trent Frazier, something like that, where you're going to see these big lineups because I think ideally I'd want Trent Frazier on Isaiah Livers. It's just Livers is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And
not only just taller, but also like
he's
bulkier.
stout.
Yeah.
And the thing I don't like about this game is that it's going to be hard to play Andre Curbelo, Trent Frazier, and Adam Miller all together.
At the same time.
But you win this by keeping the game clean, winning the Kofi Coburn Hunter Dickinson matchup, and I think just Trent Frazier going on. Obviously, things like Andre Curbelo playing as great as he has been recently is important. Adam Miller maybe being another spark like he was against Nebraska would be big. But it's going to be tough. I'm going to be honest because without Ayo Dosunmu, what happens during those lulls is going to be a huge part, and it's part of the reason why I think this is not going to go in Illinois' favor.
100%. I think these matchups are going to be very, very key. And it's about forcing with Michigan because of how deep and good they are. It's not about, it's kind of a pick your poison type thing, right? And the poison that I want Illinois to pick is have Michigan play through Hunter Dickinson. As much as, he's amazing and he's obviously their leading scorer for a reason, I am much more confident of the Hunter Dickinson Kofi Coburn matchup than I am of Isaiah Livers, DeMonte Williams.
Yeah.
Or Franz Wagner and Jacob Grandison. Having Franz Wagner go off or Isaiah Livers is going to be tough because not only are they going to score in the paint, they're going to be able to shoot it at a high clip and they're going to make you really hurt. Whereas if you really make this a Hunter Dickinson game, it's going to slow it down. You're going to get some blocks from Kofi Coburn.
Although, do you want a slow game? Because I feel like you want to push the pace. You have guards that can play at pace, and I'm not saying Michigan can't defend transition, but I think they're more comfortable in half court when they could switch those Isaiah Livers, Franz Wagner screens, when they can get Mike Smith and Eli Brooks playing off each other, and then you don't have to worry about Hunter Dickinson running back and forth because he is a slow-paced half-court kind of player.
It scares me to play fast-paced for two reasons. One, because in transition, I feel like this is a game that Michigan will obviously take the two if it's open, but make extra passes to hit threes, which would be very, very detrimental because, having guys trying to get back, stuff like that. And two, Michigan is a very fundamentally sound team. They don't turn the ball over a lot, where Illinois is pretty much the opposite, turn the ball over a bunch of times. And that scares me the most because if this turns into, who's going to have more fast break points, I don't think it's going to go in Illinois' favor. And I would rather them slow it down, really take Hunter Dickinson, make him take his time because he's a guy that can really bully you, but he's also a guy that can hit you with a lot of finesse moves around the paint. He's very, very – he really gets after the rebound, and he puts up shots that don't seem like – they're kind of like Nikola Jokic, don't seem like they have a chance of going in, and it's just nothing but net. So I'd rather have that matchup, Hunter Dickinson versus Kofi Coburn, than – having a fast-paced game where it's the ball's in Livers' hands and he's doing what he wants to, or the ball's in Mike Smith's hands and he's finding the guys that he wants to on the perimeter, if that makes sense.
I understand that, but I think I want to see Curbelo doing that because, yes, some of his problems come when he's trying to push the pace and he's just forcing things, and he's great at attacking in the half court and just trying to get to the rim, but you have the guys that can play at pace. And even Kofi Coburn, he's not a traditional back and forth big, but when he's going and when he's
especially recently,
been
running the floor.
Yeah, when he's getting that secondary break and he's coming off, there are not too many guys that can guard him. I don't know if Hunter Dickinson can keep up with him. But with that said, Michigan defensively is, for a reason, one of the best defenses in the country. It might just take like a fluky performance to win this, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. So Adam Miller, right, this season, and this is going to lead into my whole who's going to have a big game. Adam Miller has, as we've seen him in high school, was some guy that had the ball in his hands, was able to create his own shot, do a lot of things, and that's why he was such a highly touted recruit. This year, just because of the talent around him and the guards that are around him, he's been forced to kind of be a spot-up shooter. And he started all year. He's obviously tremendously increased his ability to play defense. And he is had offensive games here and there, right? But he's not the guy that you thought, or he's not played like the guy you might have thought he was. And I think that's honestly because the ball is just not in his hands enough.
We're not utilizing his play style.
Right. And I think that would just be hard to utilize his play style with two ball-dominant guards with Adesumu and Trent Frazier.
And Andre Curbelo.
And right, exactly. And, Kofi Coburn is getting almost half the touches in the post anyway. So next year I think will be Adam Miller's year. But we saw in Nebraska, the first game without Adesumu, Adam Miller had 16 points, was playing really efficiently, playing really well. He ended that game with only 18 points on 15 shots. But the very next game against Wisconsin, I know it's two different teams. Nebraska's at the bottom. Wisconsin's a very, mid team, but they're still ranked. Adam Miller only had 6 points on only 3 shots.
Yeah.
You'll see sometimes Adam Miller have like 6 points and shoot like 8 shots, 9 shots. That's not the game, but he 2 for 3. At least you didn't, go there and miss a bunch of shots. But what I need from this game, I really think, with Miller, who if Mike Smith is guarding him, is almost like I think a 5-inch, 4-inch height advantage from Adam Miller.
Yeah, Mike Smith's what, 5'11"?
Yeah, I think so. And Trent Frazier, I need both of them to shoot often and to have the ball in their hands often and to score often. Because if this is a game where you can get maybe 22 points from Trent Frazier and like 15, 16 from Adam Miller, and then you're also going to get your normal, 18 and 10 from Kofi Coburn, that's a lot of offense that you now don't have to think about. And you're going to need to do that because Illinois' half-court offense has really struggled without Adesumu. Yeah. And if you can get that together, if you can get Trent Frazier shooting, if you can get Adam Miller driving and then finding his shot too when he's open, that's going to take care of a lot of the problems you have. And then the rest of the offense can be made up on transition. You know what I mean? When Curbelo's in there, Grandison running. Grandison, he's going to hit a 3 or 2 in this game. So I think those two, the 1-2 punch of Adam Miller and Trent Frazier, are really going to need to step up in this game if Illinois is going to have a chance to win.
Yeah, and the great thing about that is that Adam Miller not only can play, but he wants to play with the ball in his hands. He wants to be attacking the rim. He wants to be coming off of screens. You have DeMonte Williams and Jacob Grandison, who I'm guessing are going to play around 50 minutes total in this game. They're straight up spot up shooters and rebounding and defense. They do not need to have the ball in their hands. DeMonte made some nice plays against Wisconsin attacking the rim, but that's not his game. His game is shooting threes, slashing occasionally, and doing all the dirty work. So you're going to get opportunities if you're Adam Miller. Yeah. And that's why I think Adam Miller and Andre Curbelo could have a big game, because they've shown in the last 2 games when they're given an opportunity, they can play well. It's just because you have Ayo Dosunmu, one of the best players to ever stand on Champaign's campus, you're going to give him the ball. Right. You're going to let him run the show a majority of the time.
And it's worked.
It's worked for a reason. Andre Curbelo and Adam Miller, if they can step up, which I think they can, that would be instrumental. The problem is that Michigan has the guys to stop them.
Yeah.
And they're going to probably throw Isaiah Livers, maybe even Franz Wagner on Adam Miller. And that's a tough matchup. That's a tough matchup.
Yeah. I think for Michigan, Franz Wagner is really the X factor. I mean, like, one, he's one of the best defensive players in the nation. How do you get past that? Because I think it'd be a waste of not saying anything about Grandison or Williams, but to have the best defensive player really hawk those guys who aren't going to put up the same shots, I think would kind of be a waste of Franz Wagner's talent.
Yeah, but you might have to.
Yeah, but that's Illinois on the offensive end, but on the defensive end, how do you stop him? Either he's a guy that can put the ball on the floor, he's a guy that can play in the post, he's a guy that can shoot, he's a guy that can really do it all, and he's 6'10". So how do you stop him on the offense when Illinois is on defense? So I think he's really the X factor. If he has a good game, it's going to be almost impossible for Illinois to win. If he's limited, if Illinois can find a way to limit him, or if he's off, I think Illinois has a good chance of sticking around and making it a good game at the end. And then, of course, I mean, if it's a close game at the end, it's just a coin flip. So, yeah.
The good news, though, is that Illinois played pretty good defense on the wing throughout the season. The guys that have played well against them really all year, Daryl Morcell and, Joe Wieskamp. But Wieskamp's pretty much spot-up shooting.
Yeah.
DeMonte Williams and Jacob Grandison, I think they can do a good job on Franz Wagner. The question is, what are you going to get on the offensive end more for me?
Definitely. So, Nathan, we come to the end of our Michigan talk where we're going to hit these score predictions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to keep the same score prediction I did on the podcast. I think I said it's going to be a close game for most of the game until probably the 9-minute mark.
You want to keep yours hush because you're
because I'm dropping it tomorrow? Yeah, I'll do a whole different feel.
All right.
I'll do a whole different scenario. I think this is a close game until the end. And I think that it comes down to some late game heroics, but those heroics are going to favor the home team. And I think Michigan wins by score 86-81.
Okay.
That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I actually think this is going to be a lower scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
I think first half might be pushing the pace, but second half, as you talked about, it's going to slow down. It's going to be Hunter Dickinson, Kofi Coburn. I am the known pessimist on the show, and I think I'm going to stick with that. 74-67 Michigan's going to be my score prediction.
67. Yeah. I just don't see them winning without Audisumu. And, I mean, in reality, that's your best player. So are you supposed to go to the second-best team in the nation and beat them in their home, stadium?
Let's be honest. This team without Audisumu is probably the 23rd, 24th best team in the country.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range. And you're playing the second best team in the country right now.
That is what it is.
Yeah, it's tough to win those games.
Yeah, I think that, but this isn't to say that, that Illinois is going to be out of this, first seed conversation. This is a game that realistically, if you're looking at standings and KenPom and all the ratings, that they should lose. Especially without their best player. And, Selection Sunday, I think, will show that, without their best player, it makes sense that they lost this game. But this just needs to be a game where, again, much like Nebraska and even Wisconsin a little bit, you have to get your role players going. We've been saying that all year. I think in sometimes that Illinois would rely too heavily on Audisumu and Kobe Coburn. Games like Missouri early in the year. To kind of get that offense, to get that spark. And, Trent Frazier, Adam Miller, Andre Cabello, Grandison have all been playing really well in this game, in this stretch where they've won 9 of their last 10. And even in these last 2 games where they've had to make up offense without Audisumu, they've been playing well. So this is another one of those games where you really want to see the guys around Kofi and Io just do the best that they can and play to their talent. And I think if these role players make this game competitive, I don't really believe in moral victories, but it's something that you can look back on and be like, okay, this is something we can build off of.
Yeah, I think the good news about this game is that you should have no expectations going in. Mm-hmm. You should go in thinking, we're going to lose this game, but if we win this game, this can change. This can almost guarantee you a 1 seed. I'm not going to go as far as say,
but I think it puts you into a virtual lock for the 1 seed because,
it definitely gives you a lock for a 2 seed.
100%.
Because at this point, it's, I'd say, an 80% chance that Illinois gets a 1 or a 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still a little bit, if you fall off and then Iowa continues to surge, maybe you drop to the 3 line. But this game basically clinches that. And maybe that's the approach you go with because I don't really know how you can go in. Because even with what I'm saying, you can't go in saying you're going to lose the game. You got to go in assuming you're going to win. But it's a tough ask when you're losing a National Player of the Year candidate. We wouldn't expect this from Iowa if Luka Garza was there. And even with Luka Garza, they had virtually no chance. So we'll just have to see what we get out of it.
Definitely. Well, we're going to take our final break. When we get back, the New York Knicks are 3-0 since Bobby Shmurda was released from prison. Is it a coincidence? I think not. But we're going to hit NBA when we come back on Illini Drive. Welcome back to Illini Drive on 107.1 WPGU. Some teams trending upward, some teams trending downward in the NBA standings. The Knicks have played pretty well behind Julius Randle, Derrick Rose, RJ Barrett even, and sit at the 4th place in the Eastern Conference standings for the first time probably since like 2014.
Was that the 50-win Melo team?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Something like that. I don't know. Since Carmelo was Carmelo in Madison Square Garden.
Especially this late in the season.
The Heat, who started really abysmal, are now back to 500 and sit at 5th in the East. Celtics who have struggled of late, are on a 2-game win streak. The Raptors are back in the playoff contention. Hornets are up there behind LaMelo Ball, who since becoming a starter is averaging like 26 and 7. So good for LaMelo Ball. Bulls are struggling a little bit. They were as high as 6th in the standings, are down to 10, but are still only, what is this? 1 game behind 8th place.
They've only lost one game, though.
Yeah, they lost 1 game, and they have missed a couple games. The Raptors game, and I think they're not playing the Nuggets game.
Darn.
Yeah. So unfortunate they haven't been able to make up some games, but they still have a couple games left in this little stretch before the All-Star weekend. So I think they can make up some time. But in the Western Conference slate, the Suns are 4th right now with 22-11, which is a really good record for them. Devin Booker was named as the replacement for Anthony Davis. The Clippers are sitting 3rd. Lakers are 2nd. And the Jazz are still sitting very comfortable, 3.5 game lead on anybody in first place, 27-7.
I will say, whenever I watch the Jazz, they lose, and it makes no sense.
Don't watch.
I watched that Nuggets game where they got completely blown out, and I watched. No, it was. There was another recent game. Who'd they play? Who's their other recent loss? Was it Clippers?
Let me look. They lost to the Heat. Then they lost to the Clippers.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I watched the Clippers game.
Destroyed the Lakers. Then the Lakers destroyed the Warriors, which I thought that wasn't going to happen.
Did you see the Steph Curry play?
No.
He got...
when he elbowed Dennis Schroeder?
Yeah, I love Steph Curry, but it's a problem throughout the NBA, the way that they call fouls, because I feel like you could change this rule very quickly. Mm-hmm. All you have to say is if you're initiating contact, it's an offensive foul, not a defensive foul. But like the Luka play on Wiggins earlier this year, where he pump fakes.
Then every single Trae Young, anytime
Trae Young, Dame, Harden, they all do it, and it's all great players, and they do it because they know they can get to the line.
Look, that's the rules, and that's what they're exploiting. And if they play by the rules, they play by the rules. But I agree, because in that play, as much as I love Steph, he could have seriously hurt Dennis Schroeder. He elbowed him in the face. So that's a situation where I think that they do need to look at the draw fouls rule, and not only will that make the game, I think, a little more fair to the defensive players, that'll also limit free throws. That'll quicken the pace of the game, which is stuff that the league has been trying to do recently anyway. The Mavericks are trending upwards. The Grizzlies are trending upwards. A lot of good competition. What storyline have you been following the most in the NBA right now?
I don't know if this is a storyline, but just that we've already discussed this a little bit. The change of the standings is constant, especially in the Eastern Conference. You look at from the 4 seed to the 10 seed with the Pacers. That's a game and a half difference. Mm-hmm. Usually we see this in the Western Conference where there's teams cluttered together. And there's a little bit of that this year, but it's a lot in the East. And really at this point, I only feel confident in 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, Philly and Brooklyn, because Milwaukee hasn't looked great. They haven't looked perfect, but maybe they can turn it on later. Although there hasn't been any history to show that.
Right. They're only 1 game behind. They're on a little win streak, but I agree. They definitely struggled a little bit in the beginning, especially now that Drew Holiday's out. it's been a little. He's been out for I don't even remember how many games, but
Yeah.
yeah, they struggled a little bit. But Giannis has tried to turn it
Yeah. But like other teams,
on. Yeah,
Boston,
I don't. Yeah,
major
Boston's
concerns.
weird.
Miami, I think I'm starting to get around to them. I think they're probably going to finish in that 3-4 range
I agree.
in the season,
Did you
especially
hear
with
about
Jimmy
Jimmy
coming.
Butler?
What about
He
him?
was like invited to the All Star game, and he said no because Bam wasn't.
Oh
Like
wow.
he's not playing in the All Star game because he was like, nah, because Bam's not. That's
I,
wild to me.
yeah, I kind of like that. Although maybe he's just saying that because he doesn't want to play. Because a lot of guys
That
don't
is
want to
true.
play.
And Jimmy's definitely the type of person to just not care about the All Star game.
Yeah. And he kind of doesn't deserve it this year
Yeah, he
because
was out for a stretch, and the team didn't even start that well.
yeah. Although the argument for Jimmy is that they were playing so poorly without him,
And then
and
when he
he's
came
kind of
back,
changed their
and he's
scheme.
almost been averaging since he's been back. He's almost been averaging like a low scoring triple double. So
Yeah, but it would be the same argument I'd have for Christian Wood or CJ McCollum not being in the All Star
yeah,
game. Just not enough
yeah,
games. They've both played all three of them have
mhm,
played phenomenally when they've played. It's just they haven't been able to get that minimum requirement that you'd think.
agreed. Um, yeah, I think for me that storyline would definitely be the Celtics. Like I think
Yeah, that's a good one.
it's weird because they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of offensive talent, and I think defensively there's a little question mark, but it's not any question marks that they haven't had for the last two seasons when they have made significant playoff runs. So it'll be interesting to see if they can turn it around. Jason Tatum had a good game, I think, last night or the night before.
Mhm.
Um,
Hit the game winner, right?
yeah,
Against
yeah. So
Washington.
maybe that'll give them a shot in the arm, but I think they just need to figure out some stuff. They have a lot of talent, and it's kind of reminding me, especially of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and even when you throw Kimba in the mix, it's like whose team really is it? Now that Jaylen Brown is, arguably better than Jason Tatum, which
Yeah.
hasn't been the case for the last two seasons.
I think it's very fair to say that, right?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting, but I mean, Jason Tatum is a 6'10" guy who is can do anything on the offensive end, and Jaylen Brown is pretty much the same, a little shorter, but is a phenomenal defensive talent. So that's still not a team that you really want to draw in the playoffs, I think.
Yeah, and there's a short term concern, and then there's long term
Mhm.
concerns. The short term concern is that what if they just keep this up and they don't get to play at home?
Mhm.
And maybe we don't know how fans are going to come back in the
Right.
playoffs, but it's looking more and more like at least some arenas are going to bring back fans. And if you have to play on the road at, let's say, in Miami for 4 games instead of at home, that's tough.
Yeah.
But the long term concerns are that these guys have pretty contrasting play styles. And I'm going to speak for my roommate who's always yelling about Jason Tatum. And I
He's a
just have
Boston
to,
fan, right? You said that?
yeah, he's a Celtics fan. And he hates Jason Tatum right now because it seems like the Celtics play two different styles when they're running their offense,
Mhm.
Tatum or Brown. With Jaylen Brown, it's very team oriented. It's I'm gonna cut off of this pass, I'm gonna get a dribble handoff, we're gonna run some action. But with Jason Tatum, sometimes it gets a little ISO heavy. And the concern long term is does Tatum buy into a more Brad Stevens esque system
Right.
of playing? Because this team isn't really playing like a team at this point. They're playing like individual star talent, and we know in the past that doesn't work.
Definitely. Well, that'll do it for this episode. I'll be back with a newcomer, Christian Jones, tomorrow.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to get some more people in here. I know because, Nathan, you only have another semester left.
Yeah.
I only have one more year left. So I'm trying to get new people in here. Obviously, we've had a little bit of a struggle. We've only been able to have 2 people each show this year. Hopefully, it's a little better next year. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. Catch me tomorrow at Alana Drive 107.1 WPGU.